Right, on this week's Played For Both, we have former Tranmere Rovers winger Andy Parkinson. Andy, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, okay.
Brilliant. We'll start with your career at Tranmere. You joined Tranmere in 1997 after being released by Liverpool, which, to be fair to say, you had quite a successful time as a youth player at Liverpool.
Yeah, I'm really fortunate. Obviously, I was a boyhood Liverpool fan. I was in the same group as fantastic players like Jamie Carragher, Michael Owen, Steven Gerrard. And in 1996, we were, I think, the first Liverpool team to win the FA Youth Cup in '96. So yeah, I really enjoyed my time there.
Some big names that you played with as well. You left not long after that, and I'm going to put you on the spot because obviously these days when youth players and young players leave big clubs, there's loads of things well, not enough things in place, but there are things in place for supporting players. Was there anything in place when you left? Because obviously it's a big thing, because I know you're a Liverpool fan as well. So to be released by the club, it must have been a bit of a big blow for you. Was there anything in place as like support mechanisms from the club?
Yes, there was. They did the best. Thinking back, it was a long time ago, but there was. They did the best to set you up with trials, etc. And I remember a lot of the players that were my age that didn't get contracts like myself. They went off to various clubs on trial, and they still had the exit trials, which they still do now. I went to the exit trials as part of my exit strategy at Liverpool. But I'd already been at Tranmere for a week previously. As it happened, my dad knew one of the scouts at Tranmere. It was close with John Aldridge, and that's how I ended up coming here on trial initially.
Has much changed between now and then in terms of youngsters leaving football clubs and trials and the support in place?
Yeah, it has. If you ask me, it's personally still not where it needs to be in terms of support for mental health, and obviously there's a big push at the moment on mental health for young players, which is vitally important. The young players that leave ourselves, they again, the exit trials are still there for them. Likewise, we would do our best to sort the players out with an exit strategy to go to a club. Also an exit strategy for them to go into education or further education if that's what they choose to do. We have a really good support mechanism from the LFE, which is the League Football Education, who track the progress of the players for 3 years and monitor that and give them all the assistance that they require. We as part of the exit strategy last season, for the players that unfortunately didn't get contracts here at Tranmere, we offered them the opportunity to come in and train, because obviously the non-league system took a while getting up and running, so the players that left us weren't able to go on trial anywhere. So I offered them the opportunity to come in and train with us and maintain their fitness while they looked at trials elsewhere at other clubs, and a couple of them took me up on that, and that was all part of our kind of focus on supporting them with their mental health through a difficult time.
You signed for Aldo and Tranmere in '97, as you mentioned. It's fair to say you came into a club with some big personalities, and Johnny Morrissey, Kenny Irons, as well as some big names. What was the jump like going from Liverpool to Tranmere?
To be fair, I'm quite a laid-back character, so I took it in my stride really, and just looked at it as a challenge. Initially, when I first came in, I came in and played in the reserves for 4 to 6 weeks, which back then was the Pontons League, so it was a really strong league. You played the likes of your Liverpool's, your Everton's, your Manchester United's, and they were at the stadiums as well, which I think was a massive benefit back then. So I came in and played in the reserves, and at the time did particularly well. Came in, scored a few goals, which caught the attention of John Aldridge, obviously being a goal scorer. Came in as a striker, and I moved onto the wing later on, but initially I was a striker when I first came to the club. And I think it was just, obviously I was fast and pacey, and I scored a few goals in the reserves. So it was 4 to 6 weeks. I took my opportunity and I was offered a contract, professional contract at the club. And initially, that was fantastic. And within a couple of weeks, I got into the first team squad at the end of that season. Travelled with the first team squad down to QPR. And then came back for pre-season, ready to go in my first full season.
That's fair to say as well. In your time at Tranmere, you're very much a fan's favourite with your pace, especially. But you came on and you were involved in some fabulous cup runs over the years at Tranmere, and even scored in some vital goals in them runs as well.
Yeah, when I look back, I mean, it's easy now. In hindsight, now I've retired and I'm still part of the coaching staff at the club. And you look back, we had some unbelievable football players that came through this club, full international players. The highlight for me at the time is as you mentioned, the cup runs. We had a couple of years where we were devastating in both cup competitions, knocking lots of big teams out of both FA Cup and League Cup. Some fantastic games, fantastic goals, collectively for the team, but for me on a personal level. When I look back, for me, the age is probably 18 to 20 to 21 with the highlight of my career. Not just at Tranmere, but my whole career. They're the fondest memories I have, and them big games, night game, cup game, Prenton Park, full house, under the floodlights against top opposition. They were the games for me that stand out when I look back, and fans mention them to me all the time. So I know they look back fondly on them as well.
If you could pick out one particular highlight from one of those cup games, which one's the first that springs to mind?
From a personal point of view, it's probably the goal I scored against Middlesbrough in the quarter-final of the League Cup. People mention that to me all the time. So it's probably, if not one of the most memorable moments of my career. I couldn't go without mentioning, obviously, the League Cup final in 2000, even though we lost at Leicester at Wembley. Fantastic experience. I was 20 years of age. Unbelievable experience. Unfortunately, not the result to go with it. Everton, Goodison away in the FA Cup, another fantastic one. Southampton, home, 4-3. The FA Cup again. Leeds United home 3-2. I scored 2 in the League Cup. I can't pick one. I think it's unfair to pick one. From a personal point of view, the Middlesbrough one, but collectively, all them spring to mind when I think back fondly on them memories.
Yeah, definitely a wonderful 2 years at Tranmere, that period. You mentioned there the League Cup final, a 2-1 defeat, but at such a young age to start at Wembley in one of the big cups in the final, that must have been superb.
Yeah, brilliant. Slightly soured for me in terms of I was carrying an injury at the time. I got injured 2 weeks previously in the FA Cup against Newcastle at Prenton Park. So I was carrying an ankle injury and managed to get through, I think, about an hour of the game. But again, fantastic experience. Major cup final at the old Wembley as well. The last League Cup final to be played at the original Wembley, where England won the World Cup. So yeah, when I think back on it now, I think, wow, that was all right. I'm pretty pleased with that.
How different do you think things would have been for Tranmere? Because obviously they were relegated the season after down to Division 2. If Tranmere would have won that cup, how different do you think it would have been?
It possibly may have made a difference in terms of recruitment and our ability to recruit probably a higher caliber of player. But I think when you look back and if you look at the nuts and bolts of what actually was going on back then, it wasn't too long after that the ITV digital deal went sour and a lot of the money came out of the lower league clubs underneath the Premier League. Championship was just about to start then as well. So you had a change in the kind of the climate and the system of English football. I think we probably got caught up a little bit in that. So I think if we'd have won the cup final, it may have made a difference. But I think what was to come after that, we fell by the wayside because of obviously the finances involved in football at that time.
Of course, Rovers went down to Division 2 the season after, keeping the bulk of the squad. Yourself, Clint Hill, Jason Kumas, and that's really a squad that should have bounced straight back?
Yeah, should. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. It's one of them. We had a good squad, yes. We made additions. We had a new manager as well. I think a lot of us found it difficult dropping down a league because of, I think, obviously we've been at championship level or first division level, playing in them big cup games. So the euphoria that comes with that as well. And then we found ourselves going to, with the greatest respect, much smaller opposition. We had a lot of young players as well who weren't used to that. So yeah, it was a really difficult time for the football club.
Just want to touch on Dave Watson for a second. He was the manager in our first season in Division 2. How did you find him as a boss?
Lovely guy, from what I can remember. I know he wasn't at the football club long. I initially played under him. It was I had no issues. It was fine. We weren't performing fantastically well, and in the last 2 years of my time at the football club, I suffered a lot of injuries, ankle injuries, reoccurrence, and so it was very, very stop-start for me. And probably it didn't sour what had previously gone on for me, but I kind of went out with a little bit of a whimper when I left the club.
In all your time at Tranmere, in your years of Tranmere, who was the standout player who you played with?
Oh, many. I think if I look at the early years when I first came, Kenny Irons, fantastic football player.
Still is.
And I was fortunate enough to coach with Kenny in the academy that we had here. And when Kenny joined in any sessions, he was exceptional, still unbelievable technician with football. Really enjoyed playing with Kenny. John McGreal, again in the early days, fantastic player. We had lots. I was fortunate enough to play with Aldo as well. When Aldo was come to the end of his career, ridiculously good in the penalty box, finishing. Pat Nevin as well was here when I came in. Gary Stevens was here when I first came in. We had lots of very good footballers, and I was blessed to play with them. As I kind of moved through my time here, and probably the best young player that I played with was Jason Kumas. Technically gifted, natural ability, and probably should have achieved more than he did actually achieve in the game. I know he was full internationally played in the Premier League, but he could have been like a top player. Clint Hill as well went on to play in the Premier League. Alan Marn was a very good player. I was lucky enough to play with Gary Jones as well when I went to Grimsby Town. Very underrated, fantastic footballer. David Kelly as well, done great things for the football club. Some really good goalkeepers: Eric Nixon, Steve Simpson, Danny Coyne, Joe Murphy. So there was a lot of very good footballers that I was lucky to play with at this football club.
Well, that was an unbelievable list. And I tell you what, that was very impressive. And Johnny Achterberg too in your goalkeepers list. He was another great goalkeeper. You moved to Sheffield United after Tranmere. You mentioned your last couple of seasons at Tranmere, quite a few injuries. But so to get a move to Sheffield United, on paper, good move. Yeah,
that came about. Neil Warnock had rang me, and he'd been speaking as well, I think, to David Kelly at the time, because David Kelly was going to go in as assistant manager of Sheffield United. So we both kind of went at the same time. That's how that came about. Wayne Allison was there as well, who obviously I played with. So there was a couple of little links that kind of set that up. Initially, I went in on trial with Neil Warnock because, like I said, I'd suffered a reoccurrence of an ankle injury for 12 to 18 months that kept niggling away. So I had to go in and improve my fitness first, which I did, and managed to secure a 2-year deal at Sheffield United.
You weren't there long through various reasons, and you eventually went to this weekend's opponent, Grimsby Town. And again, cup runs yourself, you've got to be involved in a cup run, Andy, and you were again with Grimsby Town. Some absolute belting games.
Yeah, I was there for 2 years. Really enjoyed my time there. I'd left Sheffield United. I had a year left on my contract, but I'd left to secure some first team football. So I went to Grimsby under Russell Slade. They'd just been relegated out of League One into League Two, so I'd taken a bit of a step down. First season was a bit difficult in terms of league form for us. Me, on a personal note, did reasonably well. I think I'd finished joint top scorer in my first season there. Second season, we got all the way to the playoff final. We lost in the playoff final to Cheltenham Town at the Millennium Stadium. So second season was a lot better collectively, and as you mentioned, cup runs as well. We played Tottenham Hotspur at Blundell Park and beat Tottenham. Fantastic goal from John Paul Kalala, if I remember rightly. And we played Newcastle as well. I think we lost to Newcastle. We ended up losing in the next round. But again, I was fortunate enough to be involved in some really good top games and loads of coverage around them at the time as well, because obviously we were lower league opposition playing against Premier League teams. So yeah, I enjoyed my 2 years at Grimsby.
And of course, reunited with your old teammate Gary Jones as well to form a good partnership as well. So always a good player to play with, Gary. Yeah,
definitely. He came in the second season, Gary. So Slade had asked me about him, what my thoughts were of him. Obviously, I played with him. I think Gary had gone to Nottingham Forest from Tranmere. So we managed to get him in, which kind of changed my position a little bit. I'd played as like a second striker in the first season. Second season, Gary came in and played as a striker with Michael Reddy, and I moved to kind of the left-hand side of a midfield four, playing slightly inverted. So yeah, again, like I said earlier, Gary was a really underrated player. Very good touch, technically very good, and with a real good eye for a goal. I think he was leading goal scorer in that second season that I was there.
And Grimsby, they've gone on, they've dropped out of the Football League, very much like ourselves. They came back and they're struggling again this season, and they've just parted ways with Ian Holloway, got a new manager in, and say they're looking to hopefully survive and stay in the Football League, because they are, let's be honest, they're a proper Football League club, because they were in the First Division alongside Tranmere for a few years as well.
Yeah, they were. Good club, really good fans. Had a good relationship with the fans there. Good people at the football club, community football club as well. Like you said, not too dissimilar to ourselves. Yeah, and I do hope they do better than they have been doing previously. Hopefully not Saturday, obviously. But after that, I hope they stay up, and they brought a new manager in to try and change the fortunes around. So after Saturday, I hope they pick up.
You went on from Grimsby to play for Notts County, Cambridge, Accrington, Aberystwyth, and you finished off at Prestatyn. Now, you waited until your final year, well, your final 2 years as a player, to have your most prolific time at any football club. You just became a goal machine when you signed for Prestatyn.
Do you know what? I went to sign for Aberystwyth because Alan Morgan was manager, who is youth team manager now since I've moved up. So it was a good mate of mine. So when I played for him, because I was coaching at the time, so I'd started coaching pretty regular. So the kind of move into kind of semi-professional and coaching more kind of worked for me at the time. So when I played for Alan for a season, and then I played in a charity game at Prenton Park. I think you were there. You were in the opposition. I played in that, and Neil Gibson, who was Prestatyn manager, again another teammate of mine, he played in it, and he spoke to me after the game and said, "You still look fit, you still look fast. What are you doing?" I said, "Well, at the moment, nothing. I'm just about to leave Aberystwyth." He said, "Come in." I said, "Right, okay." So it came about. I ended up signing for Prestatyn Town. Again, worked really well for me in terms of allowing me to coach more. I was working here at Tranmere during the day, doing all the day release stuff, and working with the youth team and doing some academy coaching, which I really enjoyed. And I really enjoyed my time at Prestatyn Town. I really did. Obviously the twilight of my career, but it gave me the freedom to go and play without any shackles, really, and I was allowed to pretty much be the main man, focused around myself and Jason Price as well, ex-Tranmere player, who came and played at Prestatyn Town. We managed to get to the Welsh FA Cup final, won the Welsh FA Cup, and got into Europe, got through one of the rounds of first qualifying round of the Europa League away in Latvia, and we ended up getting knocked out against a very good Croatian team. But really fond memories of my kind of last football club before I retired and went into coaching full time.
Yeah, the cracking way to end your career, and a very lucky way too, because you get some players who just they dwindle out and they just fall into an abyss. And yourself, you're incredibly lucky, Andy, to finish on such a high, especially playing in Europe as well.
Yeah, like I said, I really enjoyed it, and there was some fortune about it because I managed to step straight into a job here at Tranmere full time. I'd been working in the academy for many years on a part-time basis, coaching and managing the under-15s and the under-16s, overseeing the day release program we had with kids coming out of school and coming in for coaching, doing some work with the youth team. And at the time, Sean Garnett had just moved up to the first team. I think Mickey Adams had just left. So there was a void there that I stepped straight into. 6 years later, youth team manager, head of coaching. I've done every coaching role there is to do in the academy, and I've been obviously academy manager for the last couple of years, and now up to the first team for the last 4 months.
How have you found that jump into the first team?
It's been challenging. It's something I've really enjoyed. I've had, like I said, when I retired at the age of 35, 41 now, so I've had 6 years of youth team management, where you're obviously the lead coach, making all the decisions, picking the team, identifying the tactics. So it's been different in terms of that challenge, but something I've really enjoyed working with the senior players. I've still tried to retain that element of development coaching to help the players, especially the forward players we've got at the football club, to give them some kind of guidance from my kind of experience in the game. It's worked really well initially, fantastically well with Ian Dawes. In the interim, we were kind of thrown into that. Well, unfortunately, when Mike Jackson lost his job, and that was really good, because some fantastic results, played some really good football. And then another transition when the new manager come in, who's been brilliant again. And it's we've had a couple of little blips, but it's gone from strength to strength. We've had some fantastic performances and results, and we've rocketed up the table. So long may that continue.
Is management something that you want to look at later in your career?
Not particularly. Of anyone who's always asked me that in the past, it's something I've always said, that I've never particularly had eyes on being a first team manager. That may change over the course of the next few years. At the moment, I'm transitioning into working with the first team, like I said, and enjoying that. It's something that it's been a challenge, but I've not found difficult, because I spent 15, 16, 17 years as a player. So I had that 6 years out where I was able to kind of not put my feet up a little bit, but not have the pressures of first team duties. And now I'm back into that and enjoying it. So it's something I may look at further down the line. At the moment, I'm happy doing what I'm doing and helping the football club that I've been a part of for 18 years, 11 as a coach and 7 as a player. So it's been a big part of my life, this football club. So whichever way I can help, then I'm willing to do that.
And hopefully you can be a part of the team that gets us back into League One next season.
That would be fantastic. Yeah, it's what we deserve.